Hi, and welcome to the newest episode of Awful Okay Awesome, the show about stories of trials and tribulations and deep turmoil at times turned into truly what it was all along, which was the path God intended to put you on, and transform you into who you are today and bestowing your gift upon the world. My guest today is Dorothy Clear, who has quite the journey. She's celebrating today, and I hope it's okay for me to share. Dorothy, can I share with the audience what you're
Yeah, actually,
celebrating
it was
today?
Monday.
Yeah, as of Monday, 29 years sober, and now she serves as a personal growth coach. So, Dorothy, I am just going to go ahead and let you share your story with the audience, and I'll ask questions as questions come up. And if and we'll go from there. That's typically how the show goes. It's pretty chill. I don't want to forget to mention our sponsors. Our sponsors are Black Aswad Coffee, the one blend that is so rich, so bold, so flavorful, so full of love, and especially love for the mental health industry. Every ounce, every drop, every sip, every ground, every bean goes to benefit organizations that help those experiencing a journey in the mental health world. So, Dorothy, without further ado, I just want you to get started. Tell them who you are and what your story is. And obviously, to you and I, not so obvious to others, we are doing this because we are in a book together for an anthology that is all about stories of trials and tribulations turned into passion and purpose. And we're just going to give them a little sneak peek of your story. That way, they are going to want to buy the whole book and read everybody's stories. Go for it, Dorothy.
Yeah, and I've read some of the stories. They are fantastic. I can't wait to
Me
see
too.
them all together.
Me too.
Um, my name is Dorothy Clear. I have been a professional organizer for 13 years and just recently transitioned my business from professional organizing to coaching, which I've been doing coaching since COVID, but as more of an ancillary service offering to my organizing clients.
Mm.
Because of a series of health issues over the last 4 to 6 years, I have come to the realization that I can't physically continue being a professional organizer. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, if I was going to retire, get a part time job, or go into coaching full time or part time. So that's been on my mind and weighing heavy on my heart for the last, I'd say, 2 years since I've had both of my knees replaced
Mm.
over a 2 year process. And it just happened this winter after the second knee surgery that I got inspired to go into coaching.
Mm.
And once I decide on something, it's like a God given, like we call them God shots. It's happened to me so many times in my life. But this God shot was a friend of mine asked me to do some coaching with her.
Mm.
And it got me refired to be an entrepreneur, to continue to help people. I can get any old job, but am I going to be able to impact people's lives? And can I do that on my own terms? So I made the decision. Something happened when she asked me, and I started working with her, and I just got refired. And I said, "That's it. I'm going into coaching."
Dorothy, I'm so sorry I couldn't hear you for a little bit. I was having some technical difficulties. Um,
Okay.
so just to repeat what you were saying, and again, the show is raw and real. It's uncut. It's just technical difficulties happen, and Dorothy and I have been dealing with a plethora of them just to go live today. So we like to be tested. We don't love to be tested by God, but we are tested by God. And sometimes it's like, how badly do you want to do this show today? I always like to make that joke, and it's bad. So it's good. We want to do it abundantly. So we figured out all the technical difficulties, but um, I digress. So I want to go back to, I appreciate so much what you said about you were a home organizer and you had some health issues, some physical issues that resulted in surgeries, and you needed to find a different path, and you really weren't sure what that was going to be, what you were going to do, and it fell on you to do coaching. Can you tell me a little bit about why that fell on your heart?
Well, when I was going through the last couple of years with medical issues, I guess I wasn't in the right frame of mind to listen to God. I mean, I listened to him, but there are times where God places me in a waiting room and I just have to sit with things for a while. And so my focus was really on my health. So when that had passed, then I guess my heart was open enough to heed the calling to what I was going to do next, and that was coaching.
Awesome. So, what kind of coaching do you like to do?
Well, when I was in my 30s, um, I went through a recovery program for alcoholism. And because of that program, I was able to experience this phenomenal personal growth, which led me to the career path eventually of being a professional organizer, I believe. That book that we're going to be involved in is all about, like when something bad happens, but you get through it and it turns out to be something really good on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my dad died in 94, and I write about this in my first book,
Mm-hmm.
Restore Order, Restore Joy, How to Get Your Life in Order After a Loss. When he passed away, I didn't know how to handle that grief. And so for the next 2 years, my alcoholism spiraled out of control. And then I got sober in May of 1996. And so what I thought was the worst day of my life, losing my dad, became a real asset to me because now I was recovering from alcoholism. I would be able to help other people recover from alcoholism. I was able to experience all this personal growth. Um, 3 years sober, I got diagnosed with depression. So I got treated for depression. I had undiagnosed depression my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So getting help in those two areas of my life really helped me grow as a person and grow into the woman that God wanted me to be. And in 2011, again, what I thought was going to be the worst thing that happened to me, I was in a new marriage and I lost my job. But in losing that job, the next year I started my business, Clear Organization, which
Mm-hmm.
I built for 13 years. And I had a really good reputation and client base, and I help people tremendously from all walks of life, no matter what their problems were. If they just didn't have time to organize, or if they had problems with mental health or neurodiversity like ADHD or Asperger's, I really help them have an impact on their life by just helping them clear away the clutter, but also getting to know them and how their brain worked
Mm-hmm.
helped me to better organize them.
Mm-hmm.
So that when COVID hit and I took coaching courses, one of the options was neurodiversity support and advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that just spoke to me because I love the way the brain works. And I like to say we all have different brains and they work differently, but that needs to be celebrated, not judged.
Correct.
So, what do people do if they have an issue with neurodiversity, but they don't have a recovery program like I did to experience all that personal growth? One answer is a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, a life coach works with you to find out what answers are inside you. What's going to work for you? You're the expert on you. You are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And by deep conversation and questioning, we as coaches bring that out in people so that they can have really positive changes in their life.
And I'm so glad that you're bringing that up and you're creating that definition of a coach, not creating, but you're explaining that, because I myself called myself a coach for a while, but there's a difference between a coach and now what I identify as is a mentor, because a coach, like you said, in a nutshell, asks questions and guides you to find the answer within yourself, to rediscover, and everything that you need is within. Whereas a, a mentor, which is more of what I would say I'm a little bit more of a masculine energy. And so I tend to kind of give prescriptions to my clients of I'm going to challenge you to do this for 30 days. I'm going to, you know what? I know this is the issue that you're having, and just do this. I am such more of like a Kurt, cut to the point. I'm going to give it to you raw and real, and here's what you need to do. And but I do give that grace option of, if it doesn't resonate, don't do it. But I also know that with what I am telling you, that you are going to get the results um, that I think you're going to get. But that was a big discovery for myself, that I am not a coach. I personally, with how I work with people, is I'm a mentor. I've been through it. I've done that. Here's exactly what you need to do. Do it or don't do it. That's your choice. It's your life, but here's what I got. Would you say that that's a fair assessment of the differentiation between the two?
Yes, absolutely. There's a huge difference between therapist, coach, consultant,
Right.
and mentor. Yeah.
Right. Right. And it's something that I think us in the industry, we play around with a lot of, what do I call myself? What am I? Especially multi-passionate entrepreneurs such as myself. I have, a development company with my husband. I have the marketing agency with my brother. I'm a financial rep on my own. And then I have the coaching that I do, but really it's not coaching. It's a mentorship program. It's a mindset mentorship program. And I would venture to say that a lot of what I do as a financial rep is mentorship. Here's what happened with me. Don't do what I did. Here's what you could do instead. um, but it's interesting that you said about ADHD and neurodivergent individuals and how they learn. I have some kids who have the diagnosis of ADHD and some kids who have the diagnosis. I have 7 kids, so it's bound to happen.
Yeah,
Right?
I know.
50-50 chance who
It's
have
amazing.
diagnosis of autism. And one of my kids in particular is very much misinterpreted as someone who's not motivated, because for the longest, he's incredibly smart. When he puts himself in a task that truly he's passionate about, he can figure something out if he's truly passionate about it, that I would never even think imaginable. And so he's brilliant. His SAT score without even studying was incredibly high. His IQ is incredibly high. But I actually just this morning ran into a former boss of his, and he said, he's got some motivation issues. And I was like, no, he doesn't. You guys just sucked at mentoring him. And because ADHD is often misseen as a motivation issue. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, a lot of things are misunderstood about ADHD. And one is that girls are diagnosed very late, usually in life. It's missed oftentimes in girls.
Mm.
It's usually seen in boys with hyperactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but people with ADHD have a really hard time organizing
Mm.
and sticking to time management.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are two areas that a professional organizer or a coach can work with them. The other part is the self esteem issue. If you're not diagnosed for most of your life, then people see you as, and sometimes they see themselves as stupid, lazy, unmotivated, flighty,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not. They're
Wow.
usually highly intelligent. A lot of them hold master's degrees,
Mhm.
but they have a hard time separating that diagnosis or that condition from who they are as a person.
Mhm.
So it affects their self-esteem, affects their relationships.
Yeah. And I'm someone who was not diagnosed as a teenager. And so I self-medicated with alcohol. I was in and other drugs, and I was in outpatient rehab. I was arrested and lost my license before I was even of age of having a license. And in fact, if you look at my record now, it shows that I was like 14, 15, and I got a DUI and I wasn't even driving. It was just from being under the influence. And and I didn't even know it, to be honest with you. I remember, and I didn't even get my license till I was 17, close to 18 anyways. So it didn't even phase me. But apparently I lost my license before I even got it. And there was friends there, the school officials would tell my friends' parents, hey, she's bad news, don't have your kids hang out with her, she's bad news. And I was just so misunderstood. Whenever you have ADHD, now it serves me as an entrepreneur because you're always looking for that high, for that excitement, for that next thing, for that boom, 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 boom. And so as an entrepreneur, it serves me because I'm multi-passionate. I have all these businesses and I have all these ideas, but I have the follow through, right? You got to follow through with those ideas.
Mhm.
And I'm big on making money from my ideas. And as a teenager, that was manifested as I'm looking for excitement. Let me try this drug. Let me try alcohol. Let me try this. And then I was like failing
Risky
classes because you
behavior.
couldn't hold my interest, especially education 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You couldn't hold my interest. So I'm appreciating this topic. And so, what are some things that you think um, you could do to help someone who is neurodivergent and staying on track with certain things, whether it's
There are,
organizing or whether it's completing a goal?
yeah. Well, with ADHD, and that's not the only thing on the neurodivergent scale. It's autism, it's learning disability, but routine is a really big thing that a lot of people don't build routines into their daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a saving grace for anybody because it doesn't give your mind time to think.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give it the option of decision making, which is so hard for people with ADHD. Um, so routine is one of the best things that I can help somebody with. And it's important to know that things take time and practice to get right. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Especially because of us talking about ADHD, I just want to say one more mention, and I'll mention it again one more time at the end. But I'm just so grateful for our sponsors because it's a rich blend of coffee that also is a rich provider for those experiencing mental health issues that often are stemmed from things such as neurodivergence. You know, you just you form such a lack of self-esteem when you don't understand what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And also as a mother and watching your kids struggle, like I've watched some of my kids truly struggle to fit into the world. Well, they're not meant to, right?
Right.
It's just that the everyday cookie cutter world that people and society have created is
Yeah.
not for them, and they don't need to conform to it and they don't need to fit into it. And I just love that. I personally feel that the world is going in that direction of understanding that more and more, rather than what it used to be is, if you can't do this, everybody else does it, why can't you?
Right. Right. And that is one of the norms that we look at people and we say, why can't you do that? Instead of teaching them or finding out why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their brains work differently. So the social norms aren't always going to work. Standardization is not always going to work with them. And
Mm-hmm.
I was, undiagnosed with depression and anxiety most of my life, and I didn't fit in. I
Right.
tried and tried and tried, and it was so hard. And then when I finally came into God's grace, with recovery. And then again, when I realized my God-given talent of organizing and being in business for myself, being an entrepreneur is the longest job and the longest career I've had in
Mm,
my life, because I'm doing it for myself and I don't have to fit into anybody else's norms.
right. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying resonates with me so much because I never felt like I fit in. Still to this day, I do not feel like I fit in. I feel like a sore thumb. I feel like a weirdo because I am a weirdo, but it's also what serves me and what allows me to have success in business because I'm not like everybody else. I don't think the same as everyone else. When I'm in the norm of society hanging out, I'll call it, as the kids say, IRL in real life. It's such a different world than the online world and the online space, and I just love that too about online, the way that we're able to connect with you and I, Dorothy, which
Yeah,
is so funny how you and I was so serendipitous how we also then met in
it
person.
really is. It's another
um,
God shot.
because we our energetics matched online because that's where us weirdos go to find more weirdos like us who get us, and not only get us but celebrate us. But then when we go into the real world, it's almost kind of a shock culture for me.
Yeah.
If I said that correctly. It's almost as a shock because then when I see how normal people think, it's so different than what us entrepreneurs in the online space think, that you forget, oh, they don't know the divine truth yet. I find myself toning myself down, or maybe not responding in a certain situation, or staying quiet because it I find that it's not well received sometimes. It's like, okay, weirdo. you know, I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I want to get back recent or to something else that you said. We all have strengths,
Mm-hmm.
and even people that are neurodivergent have strengths, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they don't realize it. What coaching or life coaching or personal growth coaching or neurodiversity coaching does for people is we look at those strengths and how you can use those to have a better life. We coach with your strength. We reframe things that you already believe about yourself so that if you think it's a weakness, you might find out it's actually a strength.
Mm-hmm.
Reframing negative thinking is another thing. What you think about yourself is not necessarily true, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to touch base on that as well. No, I can't remember your question.
That's
So,
okay. I think it went where it was supposed to.
so yeah, I've always felt a little bit like an alien on this planet, you
Yeah.
know. But the more I work on myself, self reflect, um, prayer, meditation, looking for the divine in things, I've really become my authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mask as much as I used to try to fit in. And yeah, I do want to talk about how you and I met, because if it
Yeah.
weren't for you, I wouldn't be involved in this book that's coming out in September.
Yeah. I think I had been, I'm the biggest proponent of when you want to promote something, can't talk about it enough. And those who are annoyed by the way, how much you're talking about it, that's their problem. They can mute you, unfollow you. That's fine. But for example, I was trying to promote this anthology. I had 12 spots I wanted to fill intentionally. And so I was just in Facebook groups on my profile, personally inviting individuals, my email list. Here's the book we're writing. I'd love to tell your story if you feel like you have a story to tell. And then there was the application process of submitting your story and getting accepted. We now have 17 ladies in
Mhm.
this book. Okay. The goal was 12, 17, all with all organic online marketing, which I'm a big proponent of. But, and Dorothy reached out to me, PM'd me, we chit chatted a little bit about
Through
it.
Facebook, through
What's
a
that?
Facebook ad that I
Through
saw.
Facebook, through a Facebook post in a local Facebook group. And then I went to one of the networking meetings that I sort of regularly go to every other month or so. And I just sat down.
Right
And
next to
who
me.
did I sit down next to? Dorothy. We'd never met. We were just happened to be chatting, and we'd never seen each other at this meeting before. And I just intuitively, divinely guided to just sit down next to Dorothy. And sure enough, that's when we realized who we were. And I sat down and I looked at you and I was like, oh, Dorothy. And then you didn't react to that. And so I thought, I'm not great with faces. I'm not great with names. I could be totally wrong. And your
And
Facebook
I thought
picture
she
isn't
looks
even the same.
familiar.
What's that?
And I thought she looks familiar.
Yeah. And I was like, well, she didn't react. So I guess it must not be the same Dorothy. So I, you know, I was self-conscious and I didn't continue with that energy. And then at the end of it, we realized, no, you're Dorothy. Yeah. So
Well, we
yeah,
go around and we introduce ourselves and talk
yeah,
about our business. And you said Marta, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's why she looks familiar. I just had a phone
yeah,
conversation with her, and I was really on the fence about the book because I was just starting to launch my coaching business. And as you know, as a new entrepreneur, money's tight.
mm-hmm.
Investment in your baby is kind of tight. And I wasn't sure if this is something that I should get involved in or not. And sitting down next to you that day kind of cinched it. And
Yeah,
you talked me into it. And we found out that we had all these people in common, like Corey.
yeah,
I have known Corey for a while. She's mutual friends. And I thought this was just meant to be. And you
yeah,
need to have your eyes open to
mm-hmm.
those opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. And I just love stories like that. I mean, the space that I'm in right now is a story like that. I have 7 kids at home. I have a studio in my basement. I have my office in my basement. And I typically work home from home exclusively during the first years of each one of my babies. He's going to be one next tomorrow. And I was just thinking last week how I could really start to use a space on Thursdays that's just quiet, away from home, so I can truly focus. When the kids come home from school, as much as they are invited to respect my space and time and energy, they still, mama's home. They're going to come on down and come talk to me and stuff. So sure enough, I encountered Dina Russo, who is the owner of this gallery, and she was just saying, hey, I just opened the gallery. And I was thinking, I just want a space like right down the street from my house so I can pop in and out and back and forth if I forget something or something. Or if I just like, hey, husband's home, I just need a couple hours. And she said that she was opening a space and she was looking for people to kind of fill the space to have the gallery open so she didn't have to be there all the time. I was looking for a space to go and work. And so it was a perfect match. It just so happened that she mentioned it that morning that I was thinking this, and that afternoon I met her, I got the keys. And so I rent this space out on Thursdays. And Dorothy saw there's people that come in and out to look at the art, and I chit chat with them, and that's it. And I get to have a space where I can record the show and have client meetings and client calls. And I'm not interrupted by kids. I'm interrupted by other things, but good things. Yeah. Um, so, and in that energy, Dorothy, in that space, I want to mention that I am having, to the audience and to yourself, and that I'm having a retreat in about a month, and it's going to be on my property. There's going to be delicious, delectable food. There's going to be bougie camping with teepees and a beautiful picnic spread. There's going to be facials and infrared light treatments and all of these things to just fully take care of women who just are craving a little bit of self-care, fully infused in nature. You can get on the kayak if you want, you can hike if you want, you can take a nap in your teepee if you want. You're welcome to stay overnight if you want to, or you can go home at the end of the evening. And then we'll end it with a nice campfire under the stars. And there's opportunities to have one-on-one coaching sessions, not coaching sessions, mindset sessions with myself as well. So you are all invited. The introductory pricing ends on May 31st, at the end of May 31st, and we only have 7 seats left. We're only opening it up to a couple handful of ladies to make this a truly intimate and not overstimulating experience. So Dorothy, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the audience?
Well, in regard to what you just mentioned, how important self care is to women,
Yeah.
especially working mothers, and another niche in a way that I'm seeing with a lot of my neurodiverse clients is that they forego self care in order to get other things done.
Mhm.
And so realizing that you are worthy of self care and how important that is, that's another message of mine.
Yeah, and you don't know how many times I've personally invited people to this, and I've gotten the answer of things are just too crazy right now. I can't fit another thing in my schedule. And it's truly the purpose of this is to pause all the things. This is not another thing in your schedule. It's you're pressing pause on your schedule. Everything will still be there when you leave the event, but this is a moment for you to prioritize you. Take a breath and naturally attract. And honestly, I've had ladies who've come to the retreat and they've gained clarity. They've been able to place an offer on their dream house the next day. They've attracted $5,000 from an unexpected source within the next week. It's just a spot to just, it's kind of a vacuum for all the things you desire, and from a place of peace and fun and joy and relaxation and self-care. And I see that too. I talk about that all the time. I mean, we put such a priority in this society on children and nourishing them and entertaining them and taking care of them and their appointments and their activities. And then when it comes to us, it's like, that's not something that I'm going to prioritize. Well, I mean, don't you want to be the best version of yourself for your family?
It really does give you that work life balance that most people are looking for. Self care is, I think, the secret to that life
Yeah.
work balance.
Well, that's all, folks. I want to thank our sponsor again, the Black Aswad Coffee Company. Go to blackaswadcoffeeco.com. Use the code with all caps, awesome15 for a special discount. And every ounce, every grain, every sip, every bean goes to help those experiencing mental health journeys. And stay tuned because next week we are going to announce a giveaway for you to win some coffee. So watch the show and watch my feed on Instagram because I'll be announcing that soon. Bye, everyone. Until next time.
Bye.